So hi everyone. Thanks Joshua. I'm Sanjiv and I first started quantifying myself, should find my little clicker, by accident really, about 20 years ago when Polar was a sponsor of the cycling team that I raced on. I've since become a big believer in the power of the N of one and of communities like this one to help us all habituate new behaviors and improve our lives every day. Josh asked me to speak for a few minutes today about the key elements of my personal approach to QS, so I'll seek to do just that. And to illustrate the approach, I'll talk about sleep and how I improved mine by discovering and habituating the use of glasses like these beginning 3 hours before bedtime. I see some faces who were at the meetup that I talked about these a few years ago, so feel free to try them on, take a look, and see what you think. So the first element of the approach I'd like to put forward today is to define your purpose. In other words, ask why. Why are you doing this? Why are you engaging in this activity? What's the point? In my case, by way of example, my purpose with QS, my why, is quite simple: to find and habituate behaviors, particularly in the realms of sleep, nutrition, movement, and stress reduction that improve my wellness in the here and now, while at the same time, with any luck, improving my longevity. So once you've defined your purpose, it's important, I think, to envision the outcome that you seek. You know, if purpose is the why, then vision is the what. What would you like your future state to feel like, look like, taste like, smell like, so forth and so on. For me, with respect specifically to the domain of sleep, I wanted the perfect sleep. I wanted deep, restorative sleep with very low sleep latency at bedtime, coupled with really high alertness in the morning, accomplished primarily through behavior modification with no pharmaceutical interventions of any kind. Now, once you've got your purpose and your vision in place, you can engage with and direct the next element, which is curiosity. For me, it's important to continually be on the search for new behaviors, new interventions, and new habits that have a chance of improving my life. So I'll seek out the guy wearing the funny shoes and ask why. Or that myopic friend who's reduced her prescription 100-fold over the past 3 years. How'd you do it? Or that neighbor experimenting with biphasic sleep. Why? In my case, this directed curiosity with respect to sleep really paid off very specifically when I saw a little blurb at the end of an article in The Economist. The article was about preventing jet lag, which is quite interesting, but I was most fascinated by the last 3 sentences. People will be eager to hear about the prospect of a simple solution to the melatonin-reducing effects of artificial lighting in rooms and from televisions and computer screens. It turns out that it is the short wavelengths of light, the blues, that are most responsible for fooling the pineal gland into thinking the sun is still above the horizon. It may turn out that a natural way to boost melatonin production is to wear orange glasses in the evening. So, wow, here was something I hadn't heard before. And mind you, by this time, I had engaged in almost every sleep-related behavioral intervention known to humankind. Little or no caffeine or alcohol, earplugs, light-blocking curtains, limited technology in the evenings, mindfulness meditation, no snacking after dinner, so on. Bill Dement was a professor of mine when I was an undergrad, so that's where all this came from. I now had a little nugget though, and once you've got a little kernel like this, you've got to take it to the next level through literature searches, discussions with experts, you name it, all with the goal of developing a testable hypothesis. So I delved deeply into the literature behind light and melatonin and their joint effects on sleep. And I quickly confirmed by reading articles on PubMed and other sources that we've known for some time, since 2001 in fact, that the blue-green part of the visible light spectrum, about 550 nanometers and below, most suppresses melatonin production in the pineal gland. So taking a quick look at the visible light spectrum, I wanted to block some of the greens and all of the blues and violets. sometime after the sun has gone down. And with just a bit of research, I found glasses with just these characteristics. Zero transmission under 550 nanometers, and those are the ones that are now circulating. So now I was ready to form a testable hypothesis. Simply put, would wearing glasses like these for a few hours before going to bed each night, thereby blocking blue and green light and the associated melatonin suppression, improve the quality of my sleep or not? So once you've got a hypothesis in place, it's time, of course, to test it. Here you've got to design your experiment, ensure you've got the right set of measurement tools as well as some type of control. In my case, I constructed a 28-day experiment. For the first 14 days, I followed my normal routine, no orange glasses, and then for the next 14, I wore orange glasses for 3 hours before bedtime. I didn't change anything else. I still used my technology, had all my regular lights on, followed my regular routine. All the while, I tracked my sleep using a combination of the Zeo and the Fitbit. So once you've completed your experiment, it's important to analyze the data you've gathered and understand what you've learned. Do you accept or reject your hypothesis? Now you can use statistics like z-tests and analysis of variance, but I find that those aren't usually necessary for our purposes. It's important though to iterate to find your minimum effective dose. So what did I find? Well, I found a staggering decrease in sleep latency. Sleep latency is the time it takes for you to fall asleep. Before I started wearing the glasses, I had an average of about half an hour. Afterwards, it was about under 5 minutes. I also found a very unexpected increase in deep sleep from about 60 minutes before to almost 90 minutes afterward. So really substantial effects altogether. In all, I had found a really significant new behavior that had the potential to really affect my life going forward. And once you've discovered a positive, productive new behavior like this, the next step, and I think perhaps the most important step of all, is to habituate that behavior, to make it a regular part of your routine, just as Jared was talking about earlier. If you haven't already, I encourage you all to become students of habit formation and change. It's perhaps one of the most important things you can do for yourself. And one of the most important things about habits, especially new ones, is having good cues or triggers. Mine is an alarm that goes off at 9:00 p.m. That's my cue. Put on the glasses. And over the past years, the glasses have become somewhat of what's called a keystone habit for me. One that now triggers a host of other habits that put me on the glide path to sleep. Once you've habituated a new behavior, a new set of behaviors with respect to something you've learned, it's important to extend what you've learned and take it to the next level. Perhaps you can find a way to refine your habit. One way I did this was creating a custom tinted prescription pair. So not quite as goofy looking as the ones that are circulating. Perhaps you can share what you've learned with others. Perhaps you can start a new business. Or perhaps you can apply what you've learned to a slightly different domain in your life. In my case, I've been able to use these glasses along with a few other tweaks to substantially reduce jet lag when I travel abroad. This is me over Saudi Arabia a few years ago. So by way of summary, I think it's important to first define your purpose. Why are you engaging in this activity? If you don't know it, stop, ask yourself why. Envision your outcome. What is the future state you're really looking to achieve? Be curious about what other people are doing. Read, look around, look for things that might help you improve your life. Develop and test your hypotheses, analyze your data, and then again, as I said, perhaps most importantly of all, habituate what you've learned. Make it a part of your daily reality. And lastly, extend what you've learned into new domains. And then do this again and again and again. For me, this approach has resulted in really significant improvements in my life, and I hope you all can achieve the same in yours. Thank you very much. Alan.
long does it take if you use these every night for your sleep to convert, and how long does it take if you don't use them for your sleep to go back?
When you say convert, do you mean
To move.
from, yeah, so if I don't wear the glasses, for example, if I'm up all night without the glasses, I'm away from home, and I try to go to bed at my usual bedtime, which is midnight, I'll spend half an hour or more in bed. I won't immediately, the effect is immediate. However, if I do wear the glasses, and you'll see me wearing the glasses at the Cambridge Side Galleria or in Central Square, I can engage in an activity, go back home, get in bed at midnight, and I'll be out by 12:05. So it's a pretty substantial effect for me.
Both up and down.
Yeah.
So
Keith.
Thanks for updating us on this.
Yeah.
A question that I have though is a little along those lines of a more granular approach.
Yeah.
Have you tried reducing how long you wear the glasses, and what's the optimal sort of dosing of glasses to get the desired effect?
Yeah, that's a great question, Keith. Yeah, so I would say that I would encourage you all to test the glasses at 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 hours, all of which I have tested. So I've tested wearing them for 1 hour before I wanted to fall asleep, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, and I found that 1 or 2 hours weren't as effective as 3 hours, and that 4 hours wasn't as effective as 3. So I really found that 3 was what worked best for me. Was the minimum effective dose that allowed me to fall asleep as rapidly as I wanted to, and again, still wake up in the morning feeling refreshed and getting the sort of deep sleep and REM sleep scores on ZO and the kind of ZQs that I was really seeking. Yes?
Did you attempt to correlate either the initial factor that you're varying or the intermediate measures, ZQ, et cetera, to the presumable actual desired effect, which is alertness during the day?
So, tell me that. Rephrase that for me.
So you were optimizing your ZQ, your time to sleep. All of those things are just the levers that you expect to improve your actual alertness during the day.
Yeah.
Did you try to correlate these intermediate measures that are very quantifiable to be more subjective?
Yeah, so what I tried to do is mood tracking upon awakening. So I would try to figure out, okay, if I had a long sleep latency and wasn't perhaps getting the same amount of deep sleep that I would perhaps with the glasses on, what would that mean in terms of my mood in the morning? And I generally found that the longer perhaps all of you experience this in some way or another, if you spend 30 minutes in bed trying to fall asleep, that can be somewhat frustrating. And given that you may have a defined amount of time that you have to be in bed, and you're waking up perhaps not as refreshed, for me, not waking up as refreshed results in lower mood and certainly lower alertness. But what I did find was that for me, if I do sleep more effectively as measured by sleep latency, REM sleep, deep sleep, that my mood throughout the morning is quite good, and I feel more in tune with sort of the so-called clock-dependent alerting that begins in the morning, and that I don't generally require any sort of afternoon naps or experience any afternoon dips before, again, that evening clock-dependent alerting that happens in the 6 to 9 time frame. Yes, Waze.
Did you feel any different in the 3-hour period that you were wearing the glasses? Did it make you more tired? Or?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think that generally what I feel with them is that if I put them on at 9 o'clock, by 10:30, 11, I definitely feel as though I'm getting closer to wanting to go to bed. And so I've experienced I haven't measured the melatonin levels in my bloodstream, but I would imagine that perhaps the melatonin levels are increasing such that by midnight they're at a tipping point that allows me to fall asleep quite quickly. But for me, I certainly find that I'm more fatigued wearing the glasses at 11:30 than I was at 9. Now, my wife, for example, she can put on the glasses and be asleep within 15 minutes. So I definitely find that there's a tremendous difference by person. So if you are going to try this, I would encourage you to do so at home. Maybe try it for an hour or half an hour to begin and see if there are any effects. Yeah.
Just for contrast, have you tried blue glasses?
Great question. Thanks for you're a plant. I actually have. I've tried glasses of multiple different colors. I've tried glasses in blue, yellow, and pink, rose-colored glasses. I'll say that rose-colored glasses are great to wear. They actually do make you feel happy. You know, like talking about looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, it really works. I encourage you to try it. And you can buy a pair by Uvex on Amazon for $10. So it's a cheap thrill. The blue glasses, I've actually tried them in the morning. So, one of the things that you find with using light is that light is a Zeitgeber. It's a very strong awakener in the morning. And if you wake up in the morning and you throw open the curtains and it's a bright blue sky out, it's going to send a far greater wake-up signal to your brain than you receive when it's cloudy out. And so if there's a way for you to increase the amount of blue light that's hitting your retina and consequently your suprachiasmatic nucleus and so forth, all that functioning stuff in your brain, I think that improves. I found that it improves my wakefulness. So I've used these blue tinted lenses to sort of improve my wakefulness at 8 a.m., 9 a.m. when I wake up and it's completely cloudy out. The other thing I'll just say as a bonus by way of tinting is that if you work at computers a lot, I find that the yellow tinted glasses that I wear improve my experience at monitors significantly. So if you spend 10 hours a day at a computer screen, as I sometimes do, I would highly recommend getting a yellow tinted pair of glasses. You can either do a custom pair like I have, or you can go on Amazon, get a Uvex set, again, $10. Another cheap thrill.
Last question?
Yeah.
Compared using the glasses versus just eliminating screens, monitors, and changing the ambient light in the evening?
I have, yes, so absolutely. So before I began any of this experimentation, I did do all those things. I would shut off my technology by 8 p.m., all devices would be put away. I'd start to dim the lights at maybe 9 or 10 o'clock, and so I'd walk around, maybe turn off a couple lights or put covers over lights and those sorts of things. But what they've discovered is that it takes about just about 180 lux to reset your brain's to suppress melatonin. 180 lux. So 1 lux is a candle 10 feet away. And about a 100 watt bulb in your home is emitting something like 180 lux. And maybe it's 170 lux that resets your system. So it doesn't take a whole lot to push back your brain's sort of sense of what time it is. I also found that when I was dimming the lights at 9 or 10 p.m., my wife is just, stop doing this. I'm bumping into things, So it really just wasn't as effective as these glasses. And even, so I did try all those things, and those were certainly a part of the interventions that I had before I learned about the glasses. But it still didn't give me the effect that the glasses do, which is quite substantial. And I'm able to, I don't generally like to do, like watching the Bourne movie at 10 p.m., probably not a great idea if you're trying to go to bed at midnight. Checking your work email at 11 p.m. and then expecting to get to bed 10 minutes later, not a good idea. But I can certainly use technology, other devices with these glasses on because all that blue-green light is being blocked.
Great. Thank you very much.